Hello, good morning. Welcome, everybody, to the session Musician Rises Above Workplace Injury. This session's been kindly sponsored by our conference health and safety sponsor, that's WorkSafe BC. My name's Will Heller, and I'm a Performing Arts and Live Events Safety Advisor at Actsafe Safety Association. Before we get started on this session, I'd like first to acknowledge the traditional Indigenous lands that we all live on and gather today. Although this meeting is online, we each still enjoy the pleasure of living within an Indigenous territory. To highlight the importance of this acknowledgement, I'd like to urge you to find out where you are using the Native Land digital website, and that's at www.native-land.ca. If you have questions today during the session for Jack, please use the Q&A function, which you should see on the right hand of your screen next to chat participants. Also, closed captioning button is available perhaps at the bottom of your screen if that's the way you prefer. Kim and I will both Kim will actually take care of the questions and forward them to Jack as they see fit. And without further ado, let me introduce and welcome Kim Stubbs.
Hello, everyone. I'm a health and safety consultant at WorkSafe BC, and it's my absolute pleasure to introduce our next speaker. Jack Thomas was an injured worker, and in this session, he's going to talk about his journey in rising above a workplace injury. Jack is a musician, audio engineer, music producer, and motivational speaker. He's been playing music for over 10 years. He started playing the bass guitar just before he turned 10 and picked up the drums at the age of 13. He has performed in bands, produced albums, and participated in music recording projects. So again, absolutely my pleasure to turn it over to Jack Thomas.
Thanks, Will. Thanks, Kim. Thanks, everybody, for having me here today. Again, my name is Jack Thomas. Before we go forward, I want to address the elephant in the room as to why, or rather the elephant in the truck. Why am I in my car? I had some unfortunate flooding scares this morning at my place of residence, so due to safety reasons, I do have to be in my car today, but it seems to be working, and that's just how life goes. That's a perfect example of overcoming adversities, which I am very familiar with. So to start off, I just figured I'd tell you all a little bit about myself. So I grew up in a small town in British Columbia called Port Coquitlam. Not very much to do there. So growing up, I was a very active outdoor person. We didn't have video games. We didn't have like malls or anything like that. So it was always go outside, hang out, do things, run around, get into trouble. So I became a very active person at a young age. So sports was basically my entire life. If you had asked little 7-year-old Jack what he expected 24-year-old Jack to be doing, he probably would have thought I'd be in the NHL by now. So because sports was such a huge, important part of my life, I needed to stay active. I needed to stay healthy. And doing that was a bit difficult for me and my family. Reason being, we didn't come from a place of a lot of money. So we couldn't afford the best groceries. We couldn't afford the best meals. So for me to be as active and healthy as possible, I had to find a way to adapt to not really having a lot of money. One of those things, unfortunately for myself, was I had to get a job at a young age. There was a lot of incentive for me to get a job at a young age. One of them being, of course, being able to provide for my family, provide for myself, get the food and nutrition that I needed, but also to be able to buy things that I wanted, get toys, eventually instruments, whatever it really was that I wanted to get. We didn't get the best Christmases, so that was my goal at a young age. So fast forward a few years, I've been playing baseball, hockey, soccer, all these things, but then I started to get a little desire to play music. And who was the person that got me into music? None other than my best friend. And all of us here can probably relate to, at some point in our lives, we had a best friend where whatever they did, you wanted to do as well. You just need to be twins. I'm still friends with this guy to this day, and we still do the same stuff. So for myself, one of the things that I did was see that he got a bass guitar, and I was like, oh, what is that? What is this instrument? This is so cool. So I picked it up and I started dabbling with it. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. This feels really nice. He got a bass guitar for Christmas in 2007. So a couple months passed by and I'm starting to poke in my mom's ear, like, hey, I'm really interested in learning music, really interested in learning this and that. To side note, one of her favorite shows to this day was Coronation Street. And if anybody's familiar with the show, it's a very jazzy intro, and it has a bass intro, like there's a bass guitar in it that's being played. And she said, if you ever learn the bass, you have to learn this song. If I ever buy you a bass, this song is the first thing you learn. So now there's lots of incentive for me to pick up music. My best friend plays it. I am eventually going to be getting a job where I can pay for things like that. It wasn't quite in the road yet, but now even my mom is supportive of me for it. So I thought, okay, sweet. Again, a few months go by, and I want to emphasize that when it came to my sporting, I was a great hockey player, a fantastic baseball player, but wow, was I bad at soccer, like miserable. I was so bad. Chances are, if the ball was going that way, I was running this way for some reason. It was just really horrible. So fast forward a few months. It's now March 2008. I'm playing a soccer game with the same best friend. He's on my team. And as unreal as it was for me, I scored a goal in soccer. And again, it sounds not like much, but I was really bad at soccer. So bad. So me scoring a goal was amazing. And my mom was so proud of me that we went to a music store just to check stuff out. I had never been to a music store before. So we went to go check stuff out because she was like, you know what, why don't we go see, you can go play some basses today. Go see what's going on. And when we got there, of course, everything was expensive as all belief. $2,000 for a bass. Who knows how much for all the rest. But we saw this package, and it was only a couple $100. You got everything you needed to start playing bass. It was pretty identical to the one that my friend got. So behind my back, my mom goes and buys this for me. And it was the most amazing thing. It was just absolutely incredible because it meant I could start playing music with my friend. We could form a band. It was the best thing ever. And my mom was so proud of me, and especially because we didn't have a lot of money. She spent a little bit of extra that she could have spent on anything for even herself. And I got a bass guitar. It meant that I could really start something that I never knew how passionate I was going to be at that moment, but I was going to get into something that I was really interested in. So me and my best friend, now we're both playing bass guitar. We decided, let's form a band. And you know what? Nobody else is allowed. No guitar players, no vocalists, no drummers, none of that. We're going to be two bass players. We're in the 5th grade, right? So we're 10 years old or something at this point. We thought, this is genius. Nobody's ever thought of this before. It must be groundbreaking because of this. So yeah, we're going to just play 2 bass guitars. We quickly realized that if we really actually wanted to be rock stars like we thought, we're going to need to open up our cool bass boy club and allow other instruments to join. So we, with our tails between our legs, went back to our guitar player and vocalist friends that asked to join our band. And we said, okay, you can join us. But we couldn't find a drummer. And it was tough. We were like, oh, geez, we can't find a drummer at all. And so we had been jamming making music for a few years, but we never had drums with it. It was all just guitar and bass and vocals. So a couple years later, but I was about 13 or so, I decided, I'm going to try and pick up drums. I'm the best of the worst out of all of us. And we all sucked. We were all, if you could put any of us behind a drum kit, it was miserable. And I was the best of the worst, but I still sounded like somebody throwing pots and pans down a stairwell. It was not good. Not good at all. So I approached my mom about that. I said, hey, I'm interested in learning to play the drums. And she rolled her eyes in the back of her head and she said, why are you wanting to bring drums into my household? Why are you wanting to bring that loud of an instrument into my household? I told her, look, me and Kyle, we want to be rock stars. We're going to be big. We're going to make it to the big times, this and that. She said, all right, you can get drums, but you got to pay for it. Well, now I'm kind of screwed. I don't have a job. How am I going to be able to pay for this? So what did I do? I went and got a job. I'm about 12 years old, 10 years old when I first started thinking about having to get a job. But at this point, I'm like, okay, this is serious. I need to actually pay for the things that I want to do. So I went out and got myself a paper route. This paper route sucked. I'm sorry. I hated delivering papers. It conditioned me so well for the workforce, but wow, did I ever hate delivering papers. You had to deliver papers twice a week, every week, through rain, shine, snow, hurricane, apocalypse, alien invasion, whatever it was, those papers needed to get delivered. And if those papers weren't delivered, wow, it was like I burned down the village. If I didn't get papers to this person's house, they would get so upset and they would call into the paper company and they would call my mom and they would get mad at her for me not. It was just not great. That was kind of my first impression of what it was like being in a workplace. This is my first ever job. So, okay, basically do what you're told or you're going to get in a lot of trouble. Got it. Check that one off. That was the first not real great part of my work experience throughout my life. But back to the music side of things, I went to the music store with my mom and I said, look, if you buy this for me, this drum kit for me, I will pay a single penny. I will give you all of my newspaper money for as long as off. And she said, all right, you seem committed to this. I'm going to believe you. I'll buy you this drum kit. So she did. And it took me a long time. It probably took me a year and a half of delivering papers to pay off that drum kit because it was like $50 a month, maybe. Very, very minimal amount. But I finally paid it off. And I remember feeling how good it felt. I was finally getting some skill with the drums. I sat down there and I'm like, wow, I own these now. I actually own these. I worked so hard to get this in my possession, and every penny I paid for. So that was incredible. And that lesson taught me, wow, okay, getting gifts is amazing, but working hard for the things that you want, it feels even better. So I thought, maybe I should do something that gets me a little bit more of that money. So I quit my paper route faster than I could even sit down at my drum kit. I called and I said, I'm done. I'm out of here. They did not treat me well. And again, that was my first ever job experience. So I'm kind of going into my next jobs thinking I'm going to have to be very careful here. So my next job was working at Montana's Cookhouse as a dishwasher. This job also sucked. We've all washed dishes by hand before. We've all had to wash our family's dishes. It's gross. No one likes touching that nasty water. No one likes to have to wipe somebody else's used ketchup off the plate. Imagine doing that for 400 people a night. Yeah, I smelled like a dumpster every time I went home. It was really bad. Not good pay either. Back in the day, minimum wage, it was $10.25. But again, 14, 15-year-old me, that's great money. I'm getting any money. That's cool with me. So in this workplace, it was like any other restaurant. You got to clean the restaurant. You got to clean the kitchen to basically the condition it was when the restaurant first opened. Make sure it's immaculate, absolutely clean. So at the end of the night, it was a thorough clean down. And they would give us these chemicals to use to clean. And on the bottle, there was the corrosive warning label. There was literally a skeleton hand burning in acid. And it dawned on me, just the thought, I'm like, maybe I should wear gloves with this. But they never gave me gloves. They never told me where to find gloves. They never offered it. And nobody else seemed to wear it. So I asked, I said, is this okay? And they said, yeah, just wash your hands every couple of seconds. Don't touch it for too long. What? Okay. So again, young me, my other experience with the job was getting in trouble if I didn't do what I was asked. So far here, I'm thinking, okay, I'm the youngest person here. I'm the newest person here, and everybody else is okay with this, so I have to be okay with it too. I'm sure we've all had situations like that at jobs. It's like, all right, I don't have much say here. I can't say no, I need this job. So that's what I did for the next few months. I worked at the cookhouse for, I'd say, about a year, and it wasn't good. They didn't treat me well. It was not a great place to be working because of the things that they made us do, like that cleaning stuff. So that was my next introduction into the nightmares that happen into a workplace. So I quit that job because of that. It was affecting my mental health. It got me into smoking cigarettes. Anybody who's worked in a restaurant might be able to relate that the only time you get a break is if you're going to have a smoke. And it doesn't matter how stressed you are. It doesn't matter what's going on. They don't care. They don't really care at all. If you're going to have a smoke, though, sure, by all means. So 14-year-old me picked up the cigarettes, and that was not good. It was not good for me. So tried to kick that, and that one of the things was having to quit that job. So I went a few months without working, and now I'm in grade 11 at this point. It's May of grade 11 by the time that I quit, and I'm going into my graduating year next year. And I really want to go to my dream school. It's a recording school called Nimbus, but it's super expensive. And of course, it's not like my family was able to develop much more money between the time that I was young and then. And I didn't get to save too much. I wasn't making much. It was kind of just ends meet kind of stuff. So I thought, I'm screwed. If I want to go to the school, I need to find something. I need to find it now. So in between the jobs that I had with the paper route and the restaurant, what I would do is in the summer times, I would help out a family friend. He had a drywall recycling program. He would go to work sites and pick up scrap drywall. He'd pay me a couple $100 a day. It was good. It was good. It was a good way to spend my summer. So he actually was able to hook me up with the people at the dump that we went to, as a specific drywall recycling plant. We chatted with them, and I said, hey, I just need a job. I need something for the summer so that I can have some money in my pocket before I go into graduation. And they said, yeah, sure, why not? Come on down, start. No interview, no nothing. So that's perfect. They started me at $13.75. I was 17 years old. I thought, this is great. I'm just gonna go there. I'm gonna just work as hard as I possibly can. I'm going to earn as much money as I possibly can, get as much gear as I can, prep myself for school. It's gonna be great. So that's what I did. This job, it was boring, but it paid the bills ultimately. But of course, like every job that I had experienced, it had its quirks and it had its things that we had to do that weren't the safest. So let me just explain to you what my job was at the time. Basically, what I had to do was stand at a line of conveyor belts. There was 3 belts. The belt on my left was where they would bring massive piles of drywall. So they had the big front end John Deere loaders, scoop up tons of drywall. They would dump it in there, and then they would slowly disperse it onto the belt in front of me. On that belt, I'd have to sift through, pick out anything that wasn't drywall, pick out anything that so plastic, paper, metal, you name it, it had to go. And then from there, it went on to the 3rd belt, the big 50-foot tall distribution belt. From there, it went into the rest of the recycling process, the separating, blah, blah, blah. So I'm sitting there for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, sifting through the same pile of gray after the next pile of gray in a super, super dusty room. We had masks, blah, blah, blah. But the machines were just, it was crappy. It was loud. It was not a fun place to be. But again, hey, I was getting paid good money. I didn't have to talk to anybody. I just sat there, did my thing. Cool with me. The annoying thing about the job, again, I touched on it, was the equipment and the safety things that we had to do, or rather didn't do. So the machine was so old, it would just not operate properly. You can imagine in a place that's so dusty and dirty like that, things get into places and it just makes it not function well. So one of those things was the control panel for all 3 belts. This control panel had 3 switches, a switch for each belt. One of the switches would turn off the big belt, and when that belt shut off, the other 2 belts would stop, but they still had power running to them. So the most safety training we ever got, of course, was lock out your switches. Anybody who might have worked in a construction site or around heavy machinery will know what I'm talking about. Lock out the machine, so shut it off and put a lock on it so that no one else can turn it on, and then go from there. So even if that one switch was off, I had to make sure both other belts were off too. That was pretty drilled into me. That made sense. It was very easy to get into danger in that environment, especially considering because the main 50-foot belt had a lot of problems. The main issue was that the rubber belt itself, so imagine like a treadmill, you have the actual belt part and then the 2 rollers on either end that make it roll around. The rubber belt was too small for the rollers it was on. So the belt was maybe this, the rollers more like that. Obviously 5-6 feet, the belt was not this big, I promise you. If the belt was this big, I'd probably be safe. So the belt would track back and forth on the rollers, and it would cause drywall to fall off the edges, go off the side. And we were such a high production place that we had to clean that up really quick. And if we didn't, we were there for sometimes 2 hours at the end of the day, scooping up Mount Everest of drywall and shoving it back into the main piles. So any chance we got, we went and swept all that out. But of course, if we're working under the belt, we got to shut it off. This continuous pattern of turning the belt off because it's crappy, sweeping up, turning it on, made those switches faulty. Sometimes you go to switch it on and it wouldn't switch on. You got to wiggle it back and forth a few times because dust would get in there and it would break the dust away. Boom, the connection would happen. It would turn on. Same thing, go to turn it off and it wouldn't turn off. Just wiggle the switches. That's what we were told. Just wiggle the switches back and forth until it does it. So somebody had developed a method to prevent us from having to do that so much. And was this method getting the proper size belt? No, of course not. That's too easy. That's too safe. That's too simple. No. This method was taking the strips of metal, the scrap metal that we'd get with the drywall, and shoving it into the main belt roller. We'd take it, just shove it in there when it's on. This would create tension in the belt so that it wouldn't track back and forth, give us a couple of days. Sometimes it would flatten out, so we'd have to shove more metal in there. And then sometimes we'd just have so much metal in there that the belt's only safety feature would kick in, where if it felt tension, it would stop, it would shut off, and it wouldn't turn back on until that tension was released. So we'd have to roll the roller back with our hands, everything turned off, pull all the metal out, and start again. All of this to avoid having to install the main belt, the actual size. They had already bought it. It was sitting on the desk. Their excuse was that this belt isn't worn down enough. Whatever. What did I learn in the other jobs? Shut up. Keep your ears open, mouth shut, do your job. That's all they ask. You're the youngest. They don't care about what you have to say. Nobody else seems to care, so why would they listen to you? You can see the pattern here. You can see the influence that I was given onto me and many other young workers continuously to this day. So, going forward, let's go to September. A few months pass, about to go into my graduating year, last couple days on the job, and I went into work. I just got back from a camping trip, so I was really tired. I was really haggard. I wasn't breathing very well, so I went to the doctor, and I found out that I had bronchitis. So I called my boss and I said, "Hey, I have bronchitis, but I'm still going to come into work." And he said, "Hey, it's cool if you don't need to come into work. It's fine." The job I was doing at that time at that place was just driving the John Deere loader, so it was pretty okay with me. But he said, "Look, if you do come into work, you have to go back to working on the belts." And I thought, I haven't been on the belts in like a month. It's going to be so crappy. It's in bad shape. Made sense. He didn't want me spreading the bronchitis to anybody else that might be in the John Deere loaders. Totally fine. So I went in there that day, not feeling great, again, because of the bronchitis. I can't drive the machine, so I was a bit bummed. And I went to the belts, and it was a disaster. Absolute disaster. The belt was folded over itself. There was piles of drywall everywhere. The machine had metal sticking out of it. It was just so bad. So, of course, I'm the one that has to clean all that up. So I spent 2 hours trying to get all that going, all of it up and running, turn the machine on and off like 6 times in the process. And then I remember going to turn the machine back on. I'm like, okay, I'm good to go. Boom. Not turn it on. Wiggled switches, try and break it out. Nothing. Look underneath. Oh, there's like 8,000 pounds of the metal strips down there. Okay. Lock it out. This and that. Here we go. Rolling it out. And then the belt turned on and pulled my hand right in. And I wasn't scared. I was pissed. I was like, oh, really? This? Oh, of all things. Okay, well, better get myself out of this. And it was almost like quicksand. The more I wiggled, the quicker I was being pulled into this belt. I'm like, oh, wow, I don't have much fight against this. And then I felt my hand break in 3 different places. And then I was waking up on the ground. This job was insanely boring, mind-numbingly boring. I almost fell asleep countless times. So my first thought, waking up on the ground, dust in my eyes, oh, I just fell asleep on the job. Oh, I'm so fired. I'm so fired. Oh, wait, hang on. Oh, wait, I was stuck a second ago, wasn't I? Wait, oh, yeah. I remembered that I was stuck. And whatever it was probably wasn't good. So I told myself, okay, don't look down because your hand was stuck and you felt it break. So if it's like mangled or bent, you're going to get scared. You're going to probably go into shock. You probably won't be able to go get yourself help. So I got up and I ran outside. I had to get myself help by running straight, took a left, took a right, and it took me outside. And as I took that last right turn, I ran past my coworker, and he just drained in color, like Sylvester in Looney Tunes when he sees something scary. Just literally went white. And I'm like, oh, that's super not good. So I got outside, I screamed for help, I laid myself down, and I closed my eyes, and I just said, somebody grab my hand. I don't know what's going on. Somebody come grab my hand. So I'm sitting there, I'm chatting with the people around me. I have no idea what's going on. I'm thinking to myself, my arm is like numb. It's numb. I can't feel anything. I'm thinking, I wonder what could be. And I almost as a joke thought, I wonder if my arm is there. Ooh, that's a possibility, isn't it? So I still shut. I asked the guy holding my hand. I said, hey man, is my arm okay? Is my arm there? And he just hesitated, and that was like pretty much all the answer I needed. But I still needed to hear it. So I said, you got to tell me. And he said, I'm sorry, buddy, but your arm is gone. So no human should ever have to hear that, right? We're not wired to be able to handle that. No drummer specifically should ever have to hear that. We need all of the limbs to play the instrument that we play. Adding the fact that I was just a kid, 17, I was about to go into my graduating year, like in 4 days. That's it. Everything I'd worked towards from the time that I was 9, 10 years old to that moment was with the goal of having a career in music. And now it's over. Now it's out the door. Shortly after the paramedics showed up, thankfully I was really close to a hospital, and they started radioing in everything that had happened. And I hear them say, arm severed at elbow, shoulder dislocated. And I'm like, hold on, wait, what? Do I still have some of my... It severed at the elbow. So, as demented as it is, I had thought that my entire arm was gone. So hearing that I still have half, I was like, oh, everything's okay now. That's fine. Sweet. I went, like, it's the worst case scenario, and now it's half as bad as it could have been to me. That's the way I was thinking about it. It's like, okay, awesome. I got this. Cool. He did it. I can do it.
Just at this part of the story. I'm sure Jack will be back. Hey, Jack!
Hi.
We lost
So,
you for a moment
The
there.
glory of
Yeah,
the glory of being outside
of an
of
apartment building, hey? So that's that, I guess. Anyways, what I was getting
It's
to
still a
there,
miracle of technology.
it still
Yeah,
is a miracle of
thanks.
technology that I'm talking to you all from a truck right now. That's pretty fantastic, hey? So what I was about to touch
We
on
were
before,
just at the part. Yeah, we were just at the part where you found out you still had part
Yeah,
of your arm and how
so-
it was better.
very strange to think that. Yeah, I'm sure all of you are like, what? Why would you be so stoked about that? But again, I'm telling you, it's twice as good, or rather half as bad as it was before, literally. So I'm air drumming, I'm tapping along there, and they're all like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm just playing along to my favorite songs. I'm just air drumming, figuring it out. And they just start laughing. They just start laughing so hard because I'm just, I'm literally bleeding out, dying. And I'm like, and they're all laughing. And I guess their laughter started to calm me down. So once I got calm, the pain kicked in. And wow, I tell you, it was something between the worst pain I've ever felt and also not being quite as bad as a paper cut. I'm like, I've totally had paper cuts worse than this, but it's still really painful. Yeah. So imagine that. Imagine literal death and paper cuts somewhere in between there. So let's fast forward a bit. I went to the hospital. They attempted reattachment surgery, but of course it was far too mangled. It was destroyed. So they had to do further surgery to me to fix everything that was here, aside from a severed arm. This part of my arm was also severed. I do still have up to here, but all of this was hanging off, and they had to reattach this. They had to fix my lungs. The skin on my ribs had been completely burned away. My ribs broke and punctured my lungs. My scapula broke. I had no sensation on the right side of my face. I couldn't breathe out my right nostril. It was the nines, to the nines of things that have happened. So they attempted all of that, and unfortunately, it didn't work. It was just not savable. So I now went through the process of recovery. Day 1 in the hospital, I could barely talk, speak, eat, nothing. Day 2, started to get a bit more social, but I couldn't stand. I had no strength, and I was going to sleep every 20 minutes. Day 3, I could finally get up and go to the bathroom on my own. It was amazing. It felt great to just stretch my legs, but you bet, as soon as I got back to bed, I was asleep. Day 4, I was finally able to eat something, and it was amazing. I had a muffin, and it felt like a tenderloin New York steak. It was the best. If you haven't eaten for 4 days, a muffin is just luxury. 5-star Gordon Ramsay. Day 5, I was running around the hospital, making a ruckus, cracking jokes with all of the nurses, just being myself. Day 6, they got me out of there. They said, you've healed in advance so much, you are good to go. But I still had quite a healing process, right? So September 4th was the day of my accident. September 10th is the day that I was transferred to GF Strong Rehabilitation Center. I was an inpatient there for about a month, and I went through intensive physio and mental therapy just to get myself through things. It was excruciating, the pain that I went through emotionally and physically. But the thing that kept me going the whole time is I am so excited to go drum. I'm so excited to go play music. So I remember it was exactly 1 week after the accident. 7 days later, it was my first day at GF Strong. I went to the closest music store, jumped into a drum kit, and I said, let's do it. And I started playing one of my songs, and I was like, yes, I got this. I started hopping back and forth. 11 days after my accident, I got a day pass to go visit my friends at school, and I showed all them, I can do this. And they said, okay, he can do it. I advanced so much and healed so fast that I was back at school on October 6th. September 4th was the day of my accident. October 6th, I'm in class. I went through basically hell and back trying to get myself back into my daily routine, but the thing that kept me going the most was drumming. Throughout all of it, I was able to actually graduate on time with all of my classmates. I graduated with over 100% in all of my music courses. I graduated at 98% in English. I was the runner-up as valedictorian. All of this while still trying to get my life back on track. All of this whilst literally surviving death. And it was incredible. And I owe it all to my friends. I owe it all to my family. I owe it all to music. And to this day, I still play music. Immediately after high school, I went to Nimbus. I went to my dream school. I was there for 2 years. I have 4 diplomas in media and production. Immediately after Nimbus, I went to work at the local music store called Long and McQuaid. I developed huge connections there. I went on tour countless times from people I met there. I was flown across the world I was thrown across the continent to Florida and Pittsburgh to do performances. I was in a Super Bowl commercial in 2017 doing some drumming for GNC supplements. And to this day, I now work at the world's largest online music lesson company called Musora. We own the brands Drumeo, Pianote, Guitario, and Singio. We have the biggest names in music coming in as our instructors. We have Journey's drummer coming in at some point next week. We just had Ariana Grande's drummer in. We had Steve in. We had Prince's drummer in. So this is a huge company, and I'm one of the head audio engineers there. I also do my own videos there. Matter of fact, one of the videos we're about to show you is the very first video I did with the company. Before I even started working there, they sought me out and they said, we want to do a video with you. It reached 1 million views in 3 days. And that's the video I'm going to show you here. It's the very first one, and there's more to come. This is my life. This is the worst thing that has ever happened to me, and I took it and made something positive out of it. The things that I can't ignore are that I still go through hell. I'm a very positive, happy-go-lucky guy, but I can't deny that I have bad days. And we can all relate to that. It's tough being adults. It's tough paying for things. It's tough making sure you do all the things you're supposed to do and still be a good person. So adding in the fact that I still have one hand and I have to live with this, it's tough. It's really tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But so many good things have come from it that I can't deny that it's music, my friends, and my family is what kept me going. And without any of that, I wouldn't be here. It hasn't been an easy task. By no means am I saying, oh yeah, I used to say you can do anything you can put your mind to. But the struggle with that is it's really hard to put your mind to things. It's really hard to get your mind there. Sure, if you can get your mind there, I can guarantee you'll do it. But getting there's a tough part. And so what I want to leave you all with is we're all pretty much adults here. I think we all understand what it means to be safe in the workplace. Don't allow yourself to be bullied. Don't allow yourself to be pushed around. If you feel that gut instinct, it's like, this isn't right, just don't do it. It's scary, but there's always other jobs. I'm not going to get another arm. Parents who lost their kid in the workplace aren't going to get their kid back. There's no job worth your life or limb. You will always find something new. Don't let yourself be bullied into doing something you don't want to do. And of course, just be honest with yourself. That's the other thing I want to leave you with is be honest with yourself when you're going through hardships, when you're going through tough times. I tried to just ignore it when I first got back to school. And I actually failed. English was my strongest subject aside from music. And I ignored everybody's offers for help. I ignored everything that was telling me I wasn't well. I went through my whole first semester and I failed English at 38%. That's why I had to take it again. And that's where I ended up finishing at 98% because I actually got help. I was honest with myself. So I hope this was entertaining for all of you. I think it was going to be now time for the video. If that is true, somebody interrupt me if not. But yeah, I really do appreciate all of you out here listening to this. I appreciate you taking the time for me, even though I am in my car here, eager to answer any questions that you might have. Again, just be as honest to yourself as you can possibly be. Don't try and sugarcoat things if you aren't feeling it. And pick up an instrument. It's going to save you. I guarantee it. If you don't play an instrument already, try it. If you feel like you can't play an instrument, you have a voice. You can sing. Join Singio. Join our company Singio, and I promise you, you'll get yourself playing. But without further ado, let's play the video. And nobody's interrupting me, so I think this is what we're supposed to do. So enjoy. This is me performing the song Duality by the metal band Slipknot. Be mindful, it might be a bit loud. Watch your speakers, but enjoy. A little end bit there. It just goes into a quick 3-minute blur about everything I already talked to you about. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed that little ditty. That was definitely fun to do. It's about just a year and a half old, but yeah, that was a blast. And now I work for that company. Now I'm on the other side of the board. So yeah, I guess let's get to questions if there are any.
So I just want to say, Jack, that is such an emotional journey, and I just want to say thank you so much for sharing. You have an amazing attitude, and you're just a wonderful mentor for so many people. And I truly thank you, and I wish you so much success in your future. You truly deserve it.
Thank you you very much.
I hope. Does anybody have any questions for Jack? Or
yeah, I typically tick all the boxes people have, but yeah, if you have any questions, lay them in. I'm happy to answer them.
You have to make sure to put your link in the chat box too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, let's do that right now here. So if anybody wants to check it out, that right there is the link to the video, and that's also the channel for the company I work for, Drumeo. Check out all the other freaking amazing people we have on there, and my YouTube channel is also available through there.
There is a question in the Q&A. How much did you have to modify your kit?
Great question. So of course, not every drummer would have all their cymbals on the left-hand side like I do. You'd have it more dispersed. That was a big learning curve for myself. So at first I thought, okay, I'm going to sit down and play the drums normally, normal setup. And then I started adding elements like foot pedals, like Rick Allen would have Def Leppard, if anybody's familiar. He lost his left arm in 1986, one of the first, if not the first, one-arm drummer, and he uses foot pedals and triggers. So I have some of that as well. And then I tried putting everything on the left side, and I thought, okay, this doesn't all work. And then I thought I'd try just cymbals. So ultimately, I can play any drum kit, any setup, but if I go and play a drum kit, I will put all the cymbals in the left. And that's pretty much it. I don't use much triggers anymore, but that's the biggest thing that I have to do is put all the cymbals on the left side. I'm good to go.
I actually have one question for you, and I think I know the answer, though. Would you ever consider a career in occupational health and safety?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I would. It is on. Actually, I brought it up to my workplace. I asked, who is the WorkSafe BC health and safety representative here? And they said, we don't have one. So I said, I would like to volunteer myself. So great question.
We have another question that came in. What are your mental health tips after going through such a life change?
Take each blow as they come. Like I was saying, if you are not having a good day, let yourself not have a good cry. If you are having a great day, shout it to the world. Spread that joy. Be as open as you can possibly be. We are all so caught up in having that, like, hey, how's it going? Mask on. Oh, I'm good. Just answer that, right? If somebody asks that, if you're friends with them, hey, how you doing? Oh, you know what? I'm just not having a great day today. Good things will come. Maybe people will be a bit more gentle with you and help you get through the day. And if you're in a great mood and you're spreading it around, you're just going to attract more yourself. So it's a bit cliche, but honestly, that's what did it the best. And get help if you need it. Talk to counselors, talk to therapists. They're not your enemy. I had a hard time with it. And accept medication if it's needed. Sometimes things just aren't plugged into the right places, and you need a little bit of store-bought happiness. And I can safely admit that store-bought happiness keeps me kosher sometimes. So just be honest with yourself. It's the best advice I can give.
We have another one here. Any advice to those training a young and new worker? Good question.
Very good question. I think for myself, what I would have benefited the most from as a young worker, for lack of a better term, I guess, is respect, mutual respect. If I could see at the age of 12 that I was being treated with as much respect and admiration as my 40-year-old coworker, and that the questions I was asking were considered the same, and that the concerns, or I was emphasized that if I feel anything wrong, no matter what, to voice it, that would have for the young workers coming in, as long as they have somebody there that's saying, hey, you matter. That's going to be a big thing. As long as they know that they count, they matter in the workplace, they're going to feel more willing to trust their own instincts that way.
Yeah, I know culture takes time. So do you feel over the last, let's say 5 even years that I should say with COVID, do you feel that the culture has changed for, regardless if you're a young worker or even an older worker, that the culture towards safety is changing?
I definitely see that. Even in the time between my accident and now, work safety is far more prominent in a lot of the workplaces I'm around. The music store I worked at, Long McQuaid, we were very adamant with work safety. As a matter of fact, when the employee that was our health and safety representative left, they immediately asked me if I'd be willing to take the position. So they had no hesitations with that, proper training with it as well. And with COVID, I think that, yes, it's far more frowned upon, and people do not accept not safe things nowadays, especially in the workplace. The employees are seeming to be more confident and comfortable speaking up about things. They seem to be more confident and comfortable asking anything in terms of safety things. Actually, at Long McQuaid, the head office did not respond to COVID very well in terms of safety for the employees, and they lost a lot of employees because of it. They changed things around very quickly because of that. So I truly do think that, unfortunately, what COVID has caused, the benefit from it is that people are how quickly things can change, and that safety, health, all of that needs to be a primary focus for us.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. As a consultant, I've seen lots of industries change because of COVID. So on a positive note, and I do hope that all industries continue with that safety mentality moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely agreed.
Yeah. We do have another question. What about your sports career? Do you play any sports now?
Yeah, so I do have a hockey stick prosthetic attachment, which is great. So I do still in the gym very frequently. I do quite intensive CrossFit training, so I'm still very, very active. It's a thought in my mind. It's actually quite easy for an amputee to join the Paralympics, and it has been a thought to cross my mind. So that's something there. So maybe see me in the Paralympics in the next 10 years.
Wow. Great aspirations.
Yeah, no kidding.
So what do you have here? Can we deal with saying no to unsafe work at a grassroots level, family, school? As many young worker like you start as early as 12 years.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think those kinds of things need to be more of a forefront in young places, family, school. I totally agree. So if you're on the playground and your friend wants you to go on the monkey bars, you should say no. Like, you're not going to be made fun of. That's another thing, is as kids, people get egged on, peer pressure. So teachers, they could be doing things to emphasize, if you at all don't even want to be playing, just allowing kids to know that their voice and opinion matters, I think is really the root of it all. So I totally agree. Saying no to unsafe things or things that just do not sit right with you is tough for a lot of people. And I think if we can help our young generations coming up do that more, it's going to be helpful for them in the long run, even beyond workplaces.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's paramount early on, not just when you're entering the workforce, ingrained.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, we don't have any more questions coming in.
Okay.
Now we're getting close to lunch.
Yeah.
So I hope you're flood. I hope you can make it back into your place.
Yeah, hopefully soon. No text or call yet for a little bit longer.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm also an audio engineer. I'm wondering if you can speak to that side of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I have been audio engineering for 5 years now, and so in a basic day in day out day at the studio is I walk in, I have to set up mics on a drum kit. So we're probably setting up 32 different mics. We're balancing those with the faders and EQing them. We have to run live sessions as well. So a lot of the times I'm properly doing like broadcast pushing onto YouTube while mixing a song mid go, being able to pull things down and on the fly. So it's very, very intense. And the best thing is we get to work with like $20,000 microphones, and it's so great, but it's also so scary because I'm holding this mic and I'm like, if I drop this, I'm getting fired. So
I'm scared doing it with both hands. You're amazing.
Yeah, seriously. No, it's great. I work with just the highest end equipment, and I feel so spoiled with it. It's very, very, very fun. I will send you a picture, Sam, of the studio setups. I'd be happy to show you.
And how do you overcome? Oh, sorry. I was just going to follow up with, how do you overcome? I mean, I feel like we all have imposter syndrome and thinking, oh, am I the right person to mix this? Or even just second guessing, your tom mic placement. And how do you deal with that side of it?
So it's tough for me. Definitely imposter syndrome is when it comes to like, oh, people are only asking me to do this out of pity, or I feel like somebody would be able to do this better because I only have one hand. But honestly, what it comes down to is my work speaks for itself. I have gotten to the point where I'm confident that people like, based on the reactions I've been given to, like you're saying, mic placement or how I EQ or treat something, or even how I drum, how I do something in a song. It's gotten to the point where people want to work with me just because of the skill. And they're like, you know what? Anything that might be missing is we don't notice it. I have bands asking me to drum for them. It's like, you could ask a 2-arm drummer to do this. And they say, yeah, but we want you because you're good. And same deal. Yeah, I'm working in this company because my ear is fantastic and I know what to do to things. So I definitely feel embarrassed sometimes. Like, oh, it's taking me probably twice as long to set up this drum kit and mics as anybody else, but they will let me take twice as long because I'm good at it. So it took a long time. Took a long time to get to that point, but I'm just very confident to myself now.
Way to go. Thanks for sharing.
A few more questions snuck in. So what happened with the employer? Was there an investigation?
Yes. So if anybody's not familiar with the WorkSafe BC policy, it's no fault investigations. They don't look for whose fault, rather what caused it, how can it be prevented. So they got shut down for over a month because of umpteen safety regulation issues. The things that have come to it is brand new machinery in there. All of the cages are closed off. Everybody has walkie-talkies now, better suits, better training. A lot that happened in that workplace. So they are still around. I mean no harm to the company. They do a great job. They're one of the only drywall recycling plants for kilometers, for hundreds of kilometers, if not in the province. So I do not want them to go under, and I'm happy they're still around. But they needed something, unfortunately, like this to happen to prevent anything worse from happening.
Yeah, which is very unfortunate because that's how even a lot of our regulations get written, is it's usually a fatality or a serious injury, and then regulations come into force. Yeah.
Exactly.
One more question here. What are the current barriers to young workers to say no?
I think the current barriers come from, again, self-confidence, seeing the respect come from other coworkers, and also how other coworkers act. So if young workers see their older coworkers disregarding safety issues, they will likely follow in their footsteps, whether they think it's right or not. Again, it's influence. It's monkey see, monkey do. So things like where they see things that go against safety and still not like be prominent enough to be brought up, or if they do bring something up and it's met with slack, it's met with like, a lashback or anger, those kinds of things can really, really hinder future development of asking for help and safety tips. And it definitely did for me. I got terrified of asking for it because of that paper route, and then some. Everybody at the restaurant was totally okay with working with these chemicals, and I didn't want to cause a ruckus. I didn't feel like I could. So again, going back to what I said, emphasizing to them from the get-go how okay it is to say no, and continue by showing them respect and asking them how they feel about things, because they're not going to do it on their own. But once they feel comfortable enough and becomes part of their daily routine, they're going to be a squeaky wheel. I promise you that. They will be bringing up hey, I noticed there's a nail that's half a millimeter out of the wall. We should go knock that in. Hey, it's pretty unsafe. We'll get to that point. I guarantee it.
Yeah, no, great message. And again, your attitude by being so positive, it's enlightening. So nice to have you on.
Thank you for having me here. I love this event. Very great to have, and I'm a big advocate for it. So thank you all for having me join, and thank you all for listening, and hope it was entertaining.
Well, thanks very much, Jack. I think I can speak for everybody who's just got their emotions going up there, or emoticons going up now. That was absolutely fantastic to hear from you, and you are an inspiration. And we wish you the best of luck in the future, and maybe we'll have you back again. It looked like there were threats of more things in store, maybe for you and Actsafe in the future.
Absolutely.
It's time for a lunch break for everybody else. Thank you to Kim also for your role introducing and moderating the session. Our stretch break this time is going to be sponsored by Set Protect, and we look forward to seeing you somewhere close to 1 o'clock for the next set of sessions. In the meantime, have a great time. I don't know. See you soon.